Welcome to another Tom's Talk. We're talking, of course, about Tom Price. Tom and the Institute. What is the Institute? We keep talking about the Institute, Tom. Can you describe what it is actually?
Yeah, the Institute is our city institute, which we formed in, I guess, October of 2018, following the municipal election, uh, when we discovered that many people in the city aren't well informed about what goes on in the city and how it affects their lives. And we set up the Institute to make better information on the goings on, municipal goings on, available to the public. And that's what today is all about as well.
And the Institute actually is Our Towns, Our City, is actual name. We're going to put that up on the screen in just a moment. And I'm also a member and also representing Friendly to Seniors and CARP, two seniors advocacy groups here in the Sudbury area. And of course, we have, I guess the word is, some concerns about, as you mentioned, Tom, some of the civic activities that take place within our community. And here we see on the screen now, this is the actual, I guess it's the identifier for our towns, our city. And we're just going to just
Yes,
expand that a little bit. So we
yes,
have
essentially it's our former towns, which are listed around the outside, and our city is the amalgamation of all those towns and cities.
and looking back to move forward. What do you actually mean by that?
Well, you can't really move forward to where things are unknown unless you know where you've come from and how you got there. So what we do is we look at what our past has been to try to formulate where we go forward in the future.
And that's really bears a lot on our subject for today, which is fire services. A lot of us take fire services for granted. I certainly had until it was brought to my attention that perhaps there's changes taking place that we could look back and look forward as to what we could have based on what we had before. Is that correct? And also what other communities are doing.
Yes, it is. Going from our past, which we had a very successful fire protection service. So the question really should be is how do we improve that, not necessarily how we replace it.
Mhm.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today is how we improve it.
And you've had this sort of funnel, which on the screen here is sort of input variables and controls and goals and that sort of thing. We've talked about that in other aspects of situations looking at here in our city. But there's some concern, as we mentioned on the screen here, that really there's action afoot that perhaps might not be in the best interest of the fire service and citizens of our community.
Yes. And as we go through, I think most people will see why there's a concern. And basically that cone on the left, uh, we start off on analyzing any of these situations. We start off identifying what the goals of what we're looking at would be. Then we move up to the top and say, okay, what are the variables that can determine whether we can meet those goals or whether those goals can't be met? Once those are identified, we then move to the center one or the third one, which is what controls are necessary to be put into place in order to draw the variables into meeting the goals.
Mhm.
Pretty simple.
Well, I guess that sometimes it's the simple things that we have difficulty putting our head around. But looking at on this particular slide here, you have fire services, the alternative to the current. Now, this community that you've looked at, Haldeman County in Southern Ontario, we're both familiar with it. You were raised in that area, I believe, and my father was born in Cayuga, which is one of those communities down that way. So this is a very really almost a rural area in south western Ontario, which is located just north of Lake Erie. Uh, how could you describe it with respect to to these communities? They're all relatively small.
Yes, they are. For example, in comparison to Sudbury, if you remove the old city of Sudbury from the Sudbury, greater city of Sudbury right now, you would have an identical situation to the Haldeman. And by the way, Norfolk County, which is right adjacent to Haldeman, has a very similar system. They're both uh, they're all volunteer and they're very competent at what they do.
Well,
So
you say they are volunteers, but it says here on the screen that full-time employees are 6.
yes, and that you need things like a receptionist, a response system for like a call in to, so you need those kinds of employees as full times. And almost all of the volunteer systems across the province have 2, 3, sometimes 6 full-time employees who look after the day-to-day paperwork and all of that. But the major work of each fire department happens in that fire department. And it's here.
Just looking at the screen here, these are relatively small populations, so I guess most of these fire services just have sort of a one bay garage. Is that correct?
Oh, not at all. In
Oh,
fact, nothing
okay.
could be further from the truth. What you
Okay.
see here is the Haldeman Fire Station 1 compared to the city of Sudbury on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, I didn't have, and we haven't had the number of firefighters per station reported in Sudbury since the 2017 optimization proposal. So I've had to use 2017 numbers for the firefighters on the Sudbury stations. But as you can see, station number 1, which is the highest profile one in Sudbury, has 3 bays in downtown Sudbury. Station number 1 in Haldeman, population of 9,700, has 30 volunteers, 4 bays, and administration up above it.
Mhm.
If you move to number 2 station, which is in Minnow Lake, it's a 2-bay station, 18 firefighters. Station number 2 in Hagersville, again, is a 4-station fire station with 30 volunteers, population 2,800.
Well, that's how do you account for that?
Efficiency and what degree or what degree of numbers of firefighters do you need and how much availability do you need of them? For example, station number 1 in Sudbury has 47 career firefighters. Now, roughly 18 of those firefighters are needed for the station operation itself. The balance of them fill in as backup to other stations, career stations within the city. I think to a large degree as well, they assist in training, but you can see the difference. The 30 firefighters that they have in Station 1 in Haldeman allows for a 15 contingent response to a fire, but all of those firefighters are on call if the response need is there.
Mhm.
So that one station, if people are available, can call out up to 30 firefighters.
Wow. Here's looking at other examples here.
Yes, Station 3 in New Sudbury has 18 firefighters, and again, they rely on backup to fill in the shift vacancies in that from station number 1. Station number 3 in Jarvis, with a population of 1,000, has 30 firefighters, all volunteers. Those are 2019 numbers. And again, I say all I had available was 2017 numbers for Sudbury.
These look like quite substantial buildings in these small communities. How did they ever afford? You know,
Basically, when we get to the cost numbers, you'll see how they afford, but essentially they're paying for the equipment and housing for their fire stations, as opposed to paying huge amounts of money in labor.
Mhm.
That's the bottom line, because the labor is there as volunteers. If you could just quickly flip back to that previous one.
I'm not sure I know how to go back. I'll try. Oh,
There
there,
you
there.
go.
Okay. Hey, I'm learning all the time.
As you'll notice, Station 4 in Haldeman, population 1,700, has 25 volunteers. Station 4, which is on Long Lake Road, has 18. It's a 3-bay garage with And by the way, all of the equipment in the Haldeman stations are equivalent to, and in many cases, more than what we have in our stations.
Mhm.
Okay, so, okay, now we can go forward. Station 5, less than 1,000 population. They still have 25 volunteers able to turn out.
Mhm.
Station 5 in Coppercliff, the red building on the right there is the Heritage Fire Station that was originally built in the early 1930s in Coppercliff. And the station in the back is the volunteer station in Coppercliff. It's a 3-bay fire station. Station 6 in Haldeman, 22 volunteers. And keep in mind, you need 15 for a full station call out at a fire.
Mhm.
They have 22 available. Station 6 in Lively, most of that is, well, in fact, all of it is volunteers, and they have 22 firefighters.
Mhm.
3-bay compared to the 2-bay in Station 6 in Haldeman. Okay. Station 7 in Haldeman, population less than 1,000. Station 7 in Lively, Ontario, 16 volunteers. And again, I think that has dropped a little bit. That was a 2017 number. Dunville, population 5,600. They have 30 volunteers. You can see the equipment in the 3-bay
Mhm.
fire hall. Station 8, there is no Station 8 in Haldeman. Station 8 in Whitefish had 16 firefighters, volunteers. My understanding is at the present time they have 10.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
That
they need to bring up to a full complement in Whitefish would require 15 or 30.
they should have 20 to 25
Okay.
to make a full contingent call out of 15.
Mhm.
South Haldeman has 20 firefighter volunteers, population less than 1,000. Station 9 in Beaver Lake had 5 firefighters in 2017, and my understanding is now we're down to 3. They rely on the Whitefish Station, which is understaffed at 10. They in turn rely on Lively, which is, well, from Beaver Lake, it's close to 30 kilometers away. Not a good situation. Fisherville Station in Haldeman has 20 volunteers. Getting there 15 is no problem. 2-bay garage. The Chelmsford Station has 23 volunteers. And you can see in the background, there's 3 garage, or in the left-hand side there are 3 bays. And I think the 2 bays on the right are also to do with the fire department, but I can't verify that at the moment.
Mhm.
Okay. The Station 13 in Selkirk, which is also part of Haldeman, 9,800 population, 3-bay garage. The tower on the left is for hose drying. The building on the right is for their administration. Station 12, and they have 30 volunteers. Station 12 in Dowling has 13 volunteers and 3-bay for truck bays. The other bays on the right, I believe, are for the other vehicles in the department. Of note, all of this is the end of the volunteer stations in Haldeman, but of note is that they have what's called a Superior Tanker Shuttle accreditation. Haldeman County Emergency Services has been accredited with that service for residential properties. Having that accreditation guarantees tanker shuttle sufficient to provide the same volume of water on a continuous basis as a hydrant. So the insurance rates for those private residents enjoy the reduced insurance of having hydrant service. And all of them in Haldeman County have reached accreditation. I'm not aware of any in Sudbury having that accreditation. Going forward on the Sudbury station, Station 13 had 8 volunteers in at Vermilion Lake, and I'm not sure how many are there, but I understand that it's very poorly populated with volunteers.
So this
Next.
means we're possibly being underserviced with respect to fire protection in certain areas.
not possibly, we are definitely being underserviced. We should have an available contingent of 15 that turns out at every station for a structure fire. We have no possibility of doing that. Station 14 in Levac, they have 13 volunteers. And if they have a fire requiring the 15, they have to rely on Onaping. And if the volunteers don't come out there, they have to rely on Chelmsford. These are all now Sudbury as we've run out of the, okay. Station 12 in Belcarron, I'm sorry, the numbers are wrong there. It should be 12 in Levac and 14 in Belcarron. Belcarron has 18 volunteers, 3 bays, an administration portion. And again, if they can't get the volunteers, they call on the composite station in Station 16. Station 16 is in Val Thérèse. They have 13 volunteers in 2017 and 2 career. Those 2 career is a misnomer though. In order to have 2 career there, they need to have 8 career working out of that station. So you have 13 volunteers plus 8 career, which is 21 firefighters for that station.
Now, there's been just some recent recommendation and indeed implementation of adding to that Belterez station. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, if in adding the 2 extra career on the full time, that means you have to add another 8 employees at that station, career employees. So you would end up with 29 there, but that isn't the end of it. In order to have your 15 turnout, you need to have the balance of the 4, which is 11 available instead of 15. So the 13 just makes it. When you have a fire and the 4 respond, and if the 4 that get there first throw themselves into getting ready, by the time they are ready to fight the fire, the volunteers arrive, but those 4 are nearing exhaustion and leaving the 11 volunteers short of assistance. So in that case, the volunteers should be increased to 20 to ensure the 15 because of the 4 being too exhausted.
But could you bring in firefighters from other stations though to add to that?
You could, and that means that you have to have a response then from Valcarron or Hanmer as well. Okay.
It's a little more complicated than I think most people realize.
Oh, it is. A composite station, while it sounds great, really doesn't do anything for fire response other than they can get there maybe 2 minutes earlier in some cases. But other than that, and in fact, when you're out into the rural areas of Val Thérèse, where there's no hydrants, having 4 on the truck is no advantage. The International Firefighters Association says that you need 5 or 6 before entering a building where there are no hydrants, because you need the 5th one to ensure the pumper is supplying an adequate water supply. 2 in, 2 out, plus the pumper operator. So the 4 that they're talking about there does not meet safety requirements. Okay.
We can talk about a solution later on. Do you want to cover any of these other stations here, or
we can just quickly go through them. One thing that everybody should note is that all of these stations are not in the deteriorated, dilapidated, ready for replacement condition that we've been hearing about. If you think about all the ones that you've seen so far, the buildings are in good, sound condition. So what is the drive to replace them with new stations? Okay, so if we quickly go to the next one, this is Capriol, Garson, Falconbridge, Skeed, and you can see those are all good buildings. The next one, Coniston, Wanapate. Wanapate is maybe a little bit older, could maybe use some uplift or upgrading. And Station 10, which is a Delta, has 18 volunteers. It's located in behind the Lionel E. Lalonde Center. It's where that little
Right.
bulb is right there. And it's brand new. It's the same age as the Lionel Lalone Center.
Right.
So why would you replace it?
Good question.
Now, taking a look at the Haldeman situation, this is a map of Haldeman County. Lake Erie is the blue at the bottom. The stations are located, the larger stations have water rescue as well as all of the other paraphernalia, including Jaws of Life and everything that goes with a fully equipped fire station, okay? And you saw the list at the beginning of what equipment is in each station. The smaller red dots are the smaller stations you saw listed in the low population areas. In that whole county, you are never further than 20 kilometers from water rescue. And in fact, the three large ones on the river there are all the smaller Zodiac type water rescue boats. The one central to Haldeman County and on the shore of Lake Erie has a heavy water rescue. It's a larger, it's capable of going out on the heavy water of Lake Erie. Okay. You can see the, whoops, go back a minute. On the left there, you can see the distance that you are from all of the water things. It has an area of 1,250 square kilometers. 4 water rescues, 1 lake, 1 river. In comparison, next, City of Greater Sudbury has 300 lakes, 4 rivers, and 2 water rescue units. One of them is a Zodiac type for small water. One of them is a larger boat, suitable for Lake Wanapitei, but we have to consider Lake Wanapitei is not the only heavy water we have in our city. So on the left is listed the heavy water that we have and the distance those heavy water lakes are from that big boat in 50, 43, 45, 47, 38 kilometers. 3,600 square kilometers. Skied. Oh, I'm sorry. And that's number 1 station. That's the downtown station.
Right.
That's from the Zodiac. From the heavy water boat, you're 85 kilometers to Lake Wabagizi, 66 kilometers to Windy Lake, 85 to Lake Panage, 84 to Fairbank, and 62 to Vermilion Lake. It would, just looking at that says we're heavily under-equipped for the type of community we live in with 300 lakes and 4 rivers. And these aren't small rivers like the Grand River in Haldeman.
No, which is a pretty smooth, slow moving river.
Yes, it is. Well, being raised in Cayuga, you'd be familiar with it. So, okay, next. This gives you a comparison, and with the information I had available, I also included Norfolk County because it's not that different from Haldeman. Population of Haldeman, Norfolk compared to Sudbury, Sudbury has roughly 4 times the population, almost 3 times the area in square kilometers, less than double the fire responders. Career, we have 129 plus the 409 or plus the 280 volunteers for a total of 409. They have 11 stations, so does Norfolk. We have 21. Private dwellings, they have 20,000, we have 75,000. Response equipment, they have 40 pieces in Haldeman. I don't know how many pieces they have in Norfolk, but we have 73 pieces of equipment. The responders per station, those other numbers tell you the whole story. They are far, far better in the outlying areas of Sudbury to respond to fires than what ours is. So, well, what's it costing if we try to do that? So the next slide. The Haldeman situation in 2019 had a salaries and benefits cost of $2 million a year. In 2019, Greater Sudbury costs and salaries and benefits were $21.5 million. Norfolk County, 2.2 million or 2.3 million. So the cost per population in Haldeman was $46, cost in Sudbury $133, and in Norfolk $36 per year. As a percent of their total fire costs, the salaries and benefits represented 33% of their total budget. Sudbury salary and benefits represent 84% of our budget, and in Norfolk it is 33%. So their total cost in Haldeman was 6.3 million a year. Sudbury was 25.5, Norfolk 6.9 or 7 million. So the cost per population of total fire protection was 137 in Haldeman, 158 in Sudbury, and 108 in Norfolk. For essentially, not essentially, for actually the same quality of firefighter, I would argue considerably that far better and more equipment per population and less distance to fire response. Other spending is pretty obvious. So 15, those just give you a rough cost. So there's, to say that the alternative we've been looking at will cost more money, there is no need for it to cost more money. A complete standalone volunteer system will not cost what this city is paying for our fire system, fire response system.
So what you're saying is less cost and better service and more equipment.
Without question.
We're almost out of time here. We just have to go through a little bit here.
The other argument is, well, yeah, but they pay higher taxes. Well, no, they don't. Their tax base, taxation rate, ours is higher in almost every case. Okay, so in total, the responders are the same. Class 1 or a Class 2 fire responder is a Class 1 fire responder. It doesn't matter where you work. In Sudbury, we talk about professional firefighters in reference, and the city does, in reference to the career. That's just their job. That is not their qualifications. A Class 1 is a Class 1, whether they're career or whether they're volunteer. A Class 2, the same. What would be our budget impact? Well, it's obvious the budget impact of the volunteer system is significant. And going to composite or full-time career will cost this city a fortune. Is it needed? Well, I mean, budget can't be the determining factor, but we have to look at the need in addition to that. All the variables need to be looked at with respect to local conditions, and we define our facilities to suit those conditions. And I cannot believe that we have gone to England to have a computerized system, which any computerized system is what I call blind logic. It only regurgitates what you tell it. How you can possibly rely on that to tell you what to do in the city of Greater Sudbury is beyond comprehension.
You know, we started off by saying, you know, looking back to what we had and looking at other examples and moving forward. So rather than going to England, is there something else we can do to look at our situation and possibly improve?
Absolutely. Councillor Vagnini in the one meeting suggested that we look at a 2-department system. One department for career firefighters for the city of the old city of Sudbury, and a volunteer department for the other areas where there's most 90% volunteer. That eliminates the toxic situation we have in the employment of both groups. Okay. It will cost less than what we're paying now. It will provide incentive for volunteers to become more active. We will, if you do that, you will attract more volunteers without any question. You can see that from Southern Ontario. You can see it from almost every fire department in the province. So part of our problem here is we have a labor problem within our fire department, and the city refuses to solve that problem. It's easily solved. 2 different departments and 2 different fire chiefs.
So what we'd suggest is that anyone who's viewing this is to contact the mayor and to contact the councillor and to suggest a complete reevaluation and examination at a local level.
Yes. And why not two departments?
How about the cost?
Well, what can I say? The city doesn't seem to want to save money. They only want to spend money. So, and the proposal that was put forward in the optimization plan would have cost this city $90 million to reduce the coverage. It makes no sense.
Yeah. So therefore, common sense. It seems like common sense is sometimes they say is in short supply, but I think that a reevaluation of and citizen demand may call for a reexamination and to look at what we have now and what we could have and to look at examples from other areas.
Absolutely. And that system works elsewhere. It's been working for years here. And until we amalgamated, there was no issue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's our Tom Talk for today from
thank you for the opportunity.
Our Cities, Our Towns, Our Cities Institute. And until next time, thank you very much, Tom. Goodbye for now.
You're welcome. Okay, bye.